Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Have you ever thought to yourself, man, if I could do this over again, I would make some different choices. And man, I really wish I was doing something different with my life. Well, my friend Anthony taught me this great example from tabletop role-playing games. And don't bounce because this is relevant to real life. And essentially, the technique is after the first session, when we're playing a new game, none of us really knows how this new game works or what this new campaign is like or whatever it happens to be. He says, is there anything you would like to change about your character now that you've had the experience of playing them and seeing what that feels like? Because you may find out that this skill you invested in is really not as useful as you thought it might be. But there's other things that are, or maybe something about the character you build just isn't really lining up with the character concept you have in your head. So the thing is, we can do the same thing in real life. And I know the first thing you're going to say, Ivan, is like, well, it's too late and it's not that easy. And yes, it's not that easy, but I'm going to call BS on it being too late, no matter how old you are. When I was 44 years old, I found myself in this position where I had been ruining my life for years through active addiction, alcohol and other drugs. I could no longer work in the field I had been working in for 20 years. And I decided, I'm going to make a change. And I quit using. I got involved in the recovery. I started to change my entire outlook and way I handled and navigated life. And because that field was no longer available to me, I had to learn different skills for different jobs, even though they weren't necessarily the ones I wanted to do, but I had to reinvent myself. And it took time. It's been like 4,703 days, but it took a lot of those days to develop those skills. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't just like, erasing numbers on a character sheet and penciling some other ones in. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. But the point is, it's possible. The biggest obstacle in your way and in my way are our own limiting beliefs. And trust me, it pains me to say that because I hate when people say things like that. Except all the evidence I've seen in my life points to this being true. Now, I am not going to gaslight you and tell you that there aren't other obstacles, because everybody has obstacles and everybody has a different set of circumstances and a different starting point. I'm not going to be disingenuous and tell you that those don't exist or those aren't important. Those are real things to deal with. However, once again, in my experience, those pale in comparison to, at least for me, the self-limiting belief that I can't do that. I can't make that change. I stayed for years in active addiction, thinking it was too late for me. It was hopeless. There was no way I was going to be able to go back to having a normal life and being a normal person. I was wrong, because at the ripe old age of 57, I've learned that that was wrong. I've created a different life. And here, now at this ripe old age, once again, if you've watched the channel, you realize that I'm trying to do everything I can to make changes in my life and in my skill set and what I'm doing vocationally, so I don't have to be working a 9-to-5 job and be at the beck and call of somebody else. Is that going to be easy? No. But, it's possible. And, so at the end of the day, if you want to make a change, if there's something you want different, go do it. You're going to be uncomfortable either way. You're going to be uncomfortable making the change, or you're going to be uncomfortable wishing you had. And in a lot of ways, we have it better in our characters. Yeah, we can't roll ourselves up anew. It's going to take time, but we can even play in a different campaign. They have to stay in that campaign, if you know those terms. So be good to yourself. If you need to make that change, it's possible. You are not stuck. I'm sure I'll put a video here talking more about that, but it's all right. There's still time. It ain't over till it's over. Until that last bell rings and you've left your mortal coil, or whatever they say, there's still hope and there's still time.